One of the biggest mistakes on any spiritual path is the belief that this world is an illusion. I see people saying this quite often online, and I think there's a lot of misunderstanding and misinterpretation regarding this statement that was first said by sages and wise people a long time ago. And in this video, I'm going to get into what they really meant when they said that, as well as a couple of reasons why this world is not an illusion. And by the way, I was guilty of this same mistake myself for many years, especially when I was younger. It took a long time of knocking on that door, so to speak, and living life and contemplating it to get to the understanding that I now have, that I want to share here in this video. Let's start unwrapping this with you, the individual. Me, the individual. That sense of feeling like I'm me, but in a separate sense. The ego. We feel I'm me, but I'm separate. I'm some kind of independent entity, completely separate from everything else, which, of course, when you look more closely, can't be possible. Of course, we are connected to everything in some way, even the air we breathe. I won't get into that in this video. There's so many things I could go into there. So in modern culture, the ego is strengthened or torn down because it's vulnerable. And that's what's happening. The ego is strengthened or torn down, but without sort of that awareness, so much awareness of the universal. That's changing now, but in the East, for a long time, especially in some schools, the individual was seen as a complete illusion, and the absolute was the only thing that was real. The infinite was the only thing that was real. So one view gives too much weight to the individual and the ego in particular, which is more of a false sense of self, conditioned self, which of course we need in order to function, but we become trapped in this cage of ego. And on the other hand, there's too much weight on the absolute, so that becomes problematic. So life can only happen between the two poles of individuality and universality. Just like a battery, you've got the positive and you've got the negative. And that's the switch that gets the energy flowing back and forth, creating the movement and the life in the battery. So the universal needs the individual in order to, it's not so much about what's real, perhaps a better word, as Lama Govinda said, one of my favorite teachers, by the way, it's more about what's actual, what's being actualized. And I've long thought this, because this is part of that knocking on the door I was talking about, because without the individual actually experiencing and going through all the challenges and things that we go through in order to survive, to live, to try to thrive, to love, to connect, all the things that we're doing, without that happening, the universal can't be actualized. It only remains an abstract concept. It needs to be actualized. So through you, through your life, you are actualizing the universal. So in other words, the universe needs you as much as you need the universe in order for existence to be. And this is what some of the sages and sagesses and wise people of the past meant when they said the world is an illusion. What they meant is that it's not solid. It's not the source of life. It's not the only what you see. It's much deeper than that. There's more to it. There's more mystery. There's more depth, more subtle energies, invisible forces working behind the scenes. Even in, like, not how we learn in scientific materialism, if you want to call it that. And even in modern ideas, more modern ideas, such as quantum physics, this is being recognized. So the world is a weaving, interplay, constant movement of forces that are interconnected. See the links in the description box to find out more about my work, and subscribe to my channel. And not only that, if we call the world an illusion and say it's not real, like with that sense of the meaning, we're calling ourselves, and that means we're not real because we're in the world as well. And how can that means we're an illusion saying that? So That's circular reasoning, because how can anything that's an illusion define something as an illusion? It all cancels out. Another deeper meaning of the world is an illusion, what the sages and sagesses actually were trying to point to, is that everything is experienced through the medium of mind. So pictures, colors, sounds, tastes, it's all experienced in mind. And mind is the medium that connects everything. My mind to your mind right now, words, sounds, whoever you deal with, its mind is that medium that we connect with. Notice I'm not saying brain. Yes, brains are there too, of course, but brains are separate, and things do happen in the brain on that level, obviously, but brains are separate. It's still a duality, a separation, whereas mind is the medium that connects. The brain implies separately, independently existing monads or something that's separate and independently existing. Obviously, nothing can exist without all the other stuff that exists, because, like I said, even just getting into the example of we share the same air that we breathe, and so many other things. Everything's connected. So to summarize, the world is not an illusion, at least not in that sense, like it's an illusion. And I can see the attraction to wanting to say that, because it helps us feel like we're in control in some way, or we're putting the world, pushing it away in some way and feeling more safe. But everything, it's real. It's all one. There's no separation. The reflection in the mirror and that which it reflects are interconnected. So go, live your life, actualize your best qualities, and don't give up.